again, thank you for watching. If there's a link to the edited and expanded version, I recommend it. And as always, this broadcast may or may not stay up after I sign off. It's always a wait and see. Hello, everyone. My name is Brent Barlow, and this is Blue Light Daily, a discussion of relevance and import. We are broadcasting on this Wednesday, February 4th, 2026. It is the noon hour, 8 p.m. GMT. Here we honor the importance of public debate and the requirement of civility, the necessity of education and the strength of knowledge, the value of coming together and the power of collaboration. Before we begin, we pause to reflect and focus on our purpose, breathing in deeply, aligning with intention, dreaming the I'm possible, assisted by ancestors, powered by providence, rooted in reverence. The word spoken, the path clear, the way cool. Let us build what is worthy. Let us remember the dream forgotten. Let's make some magic together now. Ashe Madase. It is warm here in beautiful sunny Southern California, and my nose is still running. Today's word of the day is evangelical. As an adjective, evangelical, my definition, extremely enthusiastic about a cause. Webster might say, of, relating to, or being in agreement with the Christian gospel, especially as it is presented in the four gospels. Protestant, emphasizing salvation by faith in the atoning death of Jesus Christ through personal conversion, the authority of Scripture, and the importance of preaching as contrasted with ritual. Of, adhering to or marked by fundamentalism, fundamentalist. And lastly, marked by militant or crusading zeal, evangelistic. Today's bonus word is disheveled. Disheveled is an adjective. A disheveled person or a thing is not neat nor tidy. Oh, look back! A day in history. George Washington was unanimously elected as the first president of the United States on January 7th, 1789, receiving 69 electoral votes from 10 states. The Electoral College on February 4th, 1789, made him the president. Yes, folks, we've had that system from the beginning. Also, Rosa Parks, who was born Rosa Louise Macaulay on February 4th, 1913, in Tuskegee, Alabama, to her parents, Leona and James. You'll remember Rosa Parks, who was famously arrested for failing to surrender her seat on the bus to a white person, sparking the Montgomery bus boycott, a pivotal event in the civil rights movement in the U.S. Bonus today, Ozzie Davis. Ozzie Davis was an American actor, director, writer, and activist who frequently performed with his wife, Ruby Dee, until his death, February 4th, 25. Extra credit today on February 4th, 2004, the Facebook was launched from a dorm room in Kirkland House as a simple directory for Harvard students to connect, share profiles, and see mutual friends. See out there on the Facebook. Our quote of the day today is from Betty Friedan. Betty Friedan, who was born February 4th, 1921. Betty was an American feminist writer and activist, a leading figure in the women's movement in the United States. Her 1963 book, The Feminine Mystique, is often credited with sparking the second wave of American feminism in the 20th century. Quote, quote, the only way for a woman, as for a man, to find herself, to know herself as a person, is by creative work of her own. From The Feminine Mystique. Ladies and gentlemen, this broadcast is intended to serve as a platform to talk, share, learn, and grow. At Labella B, we are evangelical about the work ahead. And despite my current disheveled state, We will engage the creative work coming together in community to bring forth a world worthy of our children. Issues of concern across the globe persist like a bad cold, and they are not getting better. Greed and glut are the dual banners of the elite. And while power and wealth continue to coalesce in the hands of the few, there are those of us who desire a better outcome, who have a tremendous capacity for good and who want more and are ready to act. Friends, we can continue accepting more of the same, or we can make different choices and take collective action. One question is, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Personal privilege. I am pleased to let everyone know that the spring soccer season is about to start. I just confirmed coaching staff and my team, and I'm all excited to get out there with the girls and run around and pretend like I'm a kid. A lot of fun. Uh, if you're nearby, let me know. I'll invite you to a game or a practice. Come out and run around with us. Today's rant is going to be somewhat muted because if you know, you know, I didn't broadcast Monday. I was down, man. I'm still feeling punk. Everyone in the household is suffering a bit from not feeling 100%. So, in addition to that, I just will put it out there. Um, I am taxed. I am in a bad way. There's no other way to say it. My dear friend Marty told me that the moment will come when the tears will fall, feelings will be overwhelming, and I will tell you that those tears are coming closer and closer, I feel. Also, there are, as I've mentioned, a couple of things that I'm not at liberty to share that are also putting a lot of stress on. So we muscle ahead in community. And last week I talked about how what is going on now is so pervasive, so ubiquitous, it's so turbulent, the landscape, that can't even keep up with what's going on. Um, the other thing that I want you to understand is that when you get into a political discussion with someone, it's important to understand where they're coming from and what's important to them. So, if, for example, I speak to my brother, I know what his priorities are and I know what his touchstones are. And if I want to engage in a constructive conversation, it's important for me to listen, to understand, and as best I can articulate clearly, relying on facts rather than opinion. Um, but some people get so crazy and so passionate uh, about things that they talk out of their butts, and it devolves very quickly into an unconstructive dynamic. But going to my brother, for example, he's fired up. The S&P hit 500. I'm sorry, the S&P 500 hit 7,000 for the first time. This was just the other day, boosted by tech stocks, of course. Forbes reporting that, all the agencies are reporting. So that is very important to you, and you might overlook certain aspects of what's going on. And whether it's a deal with the devil, those are how your priorities are being expressed. You're measured by your actions. So last week, I said that the actions of the administration and Don are so far reaching that the legacy that's being created will have long-term impact and effect. Now, there are there's a lot to be said for the second term curse. No president since World War II has had a more successful second term than their first term. That is something that they overreach. They think they're never, they think they're invincible, having won the presidency of the United States, arguably the most powerful position on the planet, was for a second time. They think about their legacy, and I there are plenty of indicators right now that Trump is suffering a bit from that. We're seeing it with his demand for all stops to be pulled in the midterm elections, so that he fears losing the House, fears losing Congress. I don't know about the Senate so much, but impeachment's more coming, and getting stuck in the quagmire of a lame duck presidency, and that, I think, is his biggest fear, that the steamroller of these last 18 months, 16 months, has has some limits on it. So far, they've been very effective, as I said, uh, but as we're seeing in Minneapolis, and with regard to the immigration issues, uh, there's finally some pushback. Whether or not there's a spine among any of the Congress persons in the U.S. Congress, Senate or House, we'll see. Uh, but when you've got two U.S. citizens being shot and killed, and I love this. I don't even remember hearing anything about it, but I did stumble across a couple of days ago. This is reported in the AP. ICE officials, immigration officials, presented Alberto Castaneda Mondragon, who they said, while handcuffed, ran headlong into a brick wall and purposefully smashed his head. Well, the intake nurses, the intensive care nurses who were treating him, were finding this extremely hard to believe and laughable, because there was no way that a person could have sustained the injury sustained by running into a wall head first. So these, despite what's going on with this 700 troop withdrawal, it is still happening. That to me is unacceptable. And finally, we're hearing some voices that that is unacceptable to them. So now Trump is starting to pull back a little bit. But again, don't expect much relief or satisfaction. It's still going on. The other thing he did in the last couple of days was this call to nationalize voting. Well, this is a post a friend of mine put up. Quote, "We are currently at the killing protesters and arresting journalists stage of a fascist dictatorship. People better wake up." That's the one interesting thing that I hear, is there's a lot of screaming that, hey, wake up. This is happening. One of the things that I'm saying right here, right now. But as far as federalizing the elections, the lies persist about non-citizens voting in elections, threats of deploying at least federalizing in some way, and that and the whole weaponization of ICE and all of the election doubt continuation, the lawsuits, the bullying. It's all, so it's said, so many say, and I think it's true, we're laying the foundation, the groundwork for these upcoming midterm elections. But Trump is so over his skis on this. the Constitution in Article 1, Section 4, the Elections Clause, specifically states that elections are the domain of the states. And while Congress can establish some national rules, what is being done now by the DOJ requesting voter lists, the seizing of all the machines and records from the 2020 election in Fulton County. There's an anticipation of significant interference, partisanship, and what's shocking is that where this hits specifically on the political science scale is states' rights. Trump is saying the federal government needs to come in to do all these things. And the subtitle is, so I can continue to do exactly what I want without interference or fear. We've talked about the grotesque amount of wealth. You know, the app stores, the Apple, whatever it is, App Store, Google App Store, have removed ICE tracking apps from their app stores. TikTok is reportedly suppressing videos criticizing ICE and the shooting of Alex Preddy. Meta blocked Facebook groups tracking ICE and links to a database of agents that the government wants to keep secret. Big tech is enabling the Trump regime. Well, that's really nothing new. And again, I can only beat the drum and share some things that I think you probably want to know. I'm going to end with this you should also know this category. I've mentioned it in passing. I haven't really focused deep in it, but right now the Republican front runners for the presidential election in 3 years, a little less, are Marco Rubio, who's wearing a million different hats right now and gaining great traction, and J.D. Vance. Now, who knows what's going to become of the MAGA movement, the conservative movement? There's clearly a press for Christian values. And that was in part why I made evangelical as the word of the day today. J.D. Vance is out there and he wants that brass ring. And what galls me about this guy is the brass falls on him. I don't know if you remember, but there was a time when Haitian immigrants were being accused of stealing and eating their neighbors' pets. It was debunked almost immediately, but the story persisted. And J.D. Vance went on live and is quoted having said, if I have to lie about immigrants stealing and eating neighbors' pets to get the media's attention, I will do that. And then most recently, I love this. He did an interview with the Daily Mail, which I think is a Murtaugh asset property. But he gave an interview to Daily Mail, J.D. Vance did, where he refused to apologize for amplifying the claims that Alex Preddy, the 37-year-old ICU nurse who was fatally shot by federal agents in Minneapolis, that he was an assassin. When asked if he'd apologize to the family for labeling him, he retorted, "For what?" He argued it wouldn't be fair to prejudge before the investigation is completed. I'm sorry, folks, but plug your ears, that's chicken shit. To come out and say you're a racist, murdering, wife-beating, alcoholic who stole $1 million from my father and then say, oh, I'm not going to retract that, even though I know it's not true, because there's an investigation going on. That's just chicken shit. That is, he says he's not going to prejudge it. Well, these are the kinds of people. He also refers to this as a Christian nation. And again, I don't care where you fall on the religious scale. One of my favorite people, some of my favorite people on the planet are very religious. That is not the issue. The issue is the United States of America is not a nation. It's not a Christian nation. It's not a nation. It is a nation founded on the idea of separation between church and state. And for J.D. Vance to stand in front of the TPU acolytes, the faithful, after they've all come back from the bar and gotten a full cup of Kool-Aid, and say, I'm going to protect you. This is our nation. We are a Christian nation. I will save you. So, long and the short of it is, baby, immobilization is required, and there are some efforts, but everybody needs to understand this is the real stuff. Where the rubber meets the road, this has lasting impact on not just you, but your children and their children. At a minimum, the world is changing. There is a systematic attack of, and it's been referred to as a rupturing, whatever you woke up with, the idea that our world is this or that is constantly being eroded by politicians. And I want to make very clear as a postscript here, I am not just calling out Don. It is all of those guys, all of those people. And I don't care where you fall on the political spectrum, but gosh darn it, we have common problems and we need to get together and solve them together. I got a lot to say, but that's it for now. I am not in a good way. But for those of you who do use this broadcast to verify my physical well-being and my mental health, I'm at least on my skate, and I am going to engage the creative process to punch through this. Because it can be overwhelming, but you care, I care, we care. No one has to do it alone, so we help each other. Folks, you get to choose. You get to decide. No one let anyone tell you differently. And in the immortal words of Charles Schultz, it's fun to have fun, but you've got to know how, which is what we aims for around here. To thine own self be true. Opportunity, folks, and lay everywhere. Steal like Picasso. In our community at La Bella B, we are reclaiming our sovereignty, decentralized, democratized, where aligned individuals are creating a world worthy of our children. Information can be found at labellab.com. It's time to take action, folks. No one will do it for us. If you choose not to decide, you still have made a choice. We are not asking for permission. We are not asking for favor. We are doing it, and you are invited to join the party. Thank you for watching. Please like, share, comment. Be well. God bless. Peace.